Paul Manafort earlier, and Trump hired him a few weeks ago. He's a longtime Republican operative. Actually worked for like a Ukrainian presidential race a few years back. But he goes back.
He called it the torturer's lobby, the firm that he worked for. It was.
And he goes back to Republican campaigns all the way back to the 70s. They also hired Rick Wiley, who had run Scott Walker's campaign and is now the Trump national campaign director. And not only are we seeing a tamer Trump as a result, we're also seeing a much better ground game. I guess Tuesday he cleaned up in the unbound delegates in Pennsylvania. The Never Trump people won like 5 out of 32 seats, which would be unthinkable, a month ago when Ted Cruz was just crushing it everywhere. Eric, how big a deal is it that now all of a sudden Trump has a real campaign, like a pretty good one?
I think it's a big deal because if Trump was managing to dominate when he was acting like an idiot, then the fact that he actually has good leadership in place now to guide him when he needs it is truly a big thing. And I think that he'll be able to challenge Clinton on a professional level now because he's going to have that guidance. He's not going to have Lewandowski like grabbing girls' arms and throwing them to the ground versus, a more professional game, which is. Come on, it's the Latest.com podcast.
Why do you love Trump so much, Igor? Why do you love him?
But my point is, I think Trump is in a good place now because he has the proper leadership. I discussed this before, I think, months ago on our podcast, saying that the moment Trump hired professionals to actually guide him properly, he would be able to take off and lead a serious campaign. So the fact that he was able to do it without that, it can only get better for him.
Josh, we talked about it before, how Trump said all these things, had the support, but when it came to actual ground game and going all the way back to the first contest in Iowa, it was a mess. How big of an impact could this be at plugging up those holes where he would just be leaking delegates to Cruz?
I think really effectively. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Oh, just real quick. I agree very effectively, and I think we should also not discount the fact that maybe people in the Republican Party had a quiet little sit down with Trump and say, look, if we're going to support you, we need you to stay within certain boundaries and you need to let us help you. So, here's a couple of guys we want you to consider bringing on the team who are going to help you stay within the boundaries that the Republican Party can support you. So these may be ringers, if you will. Sorry, Josh.
Well, here's the way I think about it is I think that, seeing it and how effective the new team has been, specifically the way that delegates were being handled in Pennsylvania. Now, one of the local papers here, the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, a reporter named Selena Zito, she would call all the delegates that were running every week to say, where do you stand? And for the most part, all of them were uncommitted. But then once campaigning started, these delegates were changing their minds, and they were changing their minds because they said they were getting FaceTime with the candidate, specifically Donald Trump. So I think that sort of attention to those kind of details has improved Trump's chances. And, my political reporter's heart is broken because I don't think that the contested convention, the open convention chaos that we were all hungry for is going to happen. I think that Trump will probably be able to rally and what he needs to, if not get the nomination on the first ballot, be close enough that actually, no, I think he will get it on the first ballot, especially if he continues to win. If he takes Indiana, it's over. He will get the delegates he needs. That said, I don't know if that puts him in any better place nationally, because remember, the RNC had a plan to be competitive in 2016, and part of that plan required at least 40% of the Latino vote. It required engaging women and young people. And while Trump does have some young people there in a way, like more than I actually expected when I went to his events, it's nowhere near the level that Bernie or even Clinton or even Chelsea Clinton drew when she came to Pittsburgh. So I don't think that the RNC is going to be in that good of a position. Now, Trump does put some states on the table that may not have been. There was talk of how Utah might go blue if Trump runs, but there's also some PA absolutely could go red, especially given how overwhelming his support was here. So, it will be a very different sort of electoral map. I think that's part of the other reason, too, why you're seeing more people coalescing around Trump, is that they're starting to understand that since their original strategy to draw more people into the Republican Party has kind of failed, or at least the kind of people who build a coalition that will help you continue to get elected, that in changing the electoral dynamic of these states with a candidate like Trump is perhaps their moonshot to possibly win the national election. Yet you still have the Ryan campaign so that senators and congresspeople can campaign with Trump or not if they choose.